Hi, welcome back to the Whole Diogi. I'm Michelle, and today we're making dog food for a dog that has an upset belly. Messy, who you've met in the last couple of videos, is on lots of medication and treatments for his heartworm and other issues, and probably the cocktail of all that is just upsetting his belly a little bit. So, as you probably feel for yourself, it's not always an emergency when you have a little diarrhea or vomit one time or just don't really feel like eating. Sometimes just eating some chicken noodle soup or some saltine crackers with butter or something like that, for example, that's what I like, might settle your stomach enough to get you back on track and eating your regular diet again. It's the same for dogs. In fact, chicken noodle soup and saltine crackers with butter on them is fine for dogs. If you want to feed them that, you can. But this is possibly a little bit more nourishing and a little bit more digestible for your dog when they're not feeling great. Now, of course, if your dog is experiencing some kind of emergency, if there is, sudden and violent vomiting or diarrhea or blood that you see, or if you suspect poisoning, if you suspect bloat, something, if you have any reason to believe that an acute emergency is happening, then please take your dog to the vet. Don't just make them a pot of food. This is more for those somewhat normal belly aches when they're just acting a little bit less hungry, or that maybe they started a new kind of food and it didn't agree with them or something like that. This is dog food for upset bellies. So I'm starting with white rice. Brown rice is great for dogs. It's full of nutrients, but white rice is a little bit simpler of a starch and it's easier for them to digest when they're not feeling well. So I've got white rice. I cooked it in chicken broth instead of cooking it in just water. That gives it a little more flavor and also some proteins. The salt and electrolytes are good, and there is even some bone broth in there. So some of the minerals that dogs get from bones will be in the broth as well. So I did 2 cups of white rice, 5 cups of chicken broth to get the rice nice and mushy without burning it. Remember, we want all our starches to be really well cooked. It's kind of like partially digesting it for them, so their bodies don't have to work so hard to break it down. So I've got my rice all cooked. The next thing I'm going to add is coconut milk. I'm going to dump the whole can in there. So coconut, ooh, I got some on me. That's awesome. Coconut milk hydrates the digestive tract. It lubricates it, so it helps with constipation. It also helps with diarrhea and replenishing hydration after vomiting because it's got electrolytes and good fats. So I'm just stirring it in there. This is actually delicious, so feel free to eat some yourself if you make this. It is really yummy and good for an upset belly, for us too, actually. Just stirring that in really well. Now, if you're not sure why your dog has an upset belly, and you're not sure if maybe it had something to do with the food that you were feeding them, then you want to rule out one factor at a time, or you want to rule out all the factors and then add in one factor at a time. So plain white rice cooked in chicken broth with coconut milk is your first step. I would feed just this for the first meal or two after you know that your dog isn't feeling very well, and hopefully they will eat that, and that will give them something bland to work on a little bit, keep their digestive system moving. If that seems okay, if they are at least not getting worse by the next, maybe meal 3 of this, then you can add in some pumpkin. Pumpkin is really great too. It's got soluble fiber that is good for moving things through if there's constipation, but the fiber is also good because it does absorb some water, so it's good for treating diarrhea as well. Pumpkin is actually great all the time, so you can always add a little bit of pumpkin to your dog's food. It kind of balances out the digestive system. So since Messy isn't feeling good right now, we're going to do his first meal of just coconut milk, rice, and chicken broth. And then we'll add, on meal number 3, we'll add a couple of tablespoons, usually about a tablespoon per 40 pounds of dog. It's not an exact science, and a little extra pumpkin isn't going to hurt them. But a couple tablespoons of pumpkin to his bowl of this for meal number 3. If he's still continuing on the upswing and none of these ingredients seem to have upset his belly worse, then you can keep doing this for a couple meals. Meals 3 and 4 can just be like that with the pumpkin. You can also start to add boiled chicken. You don't really want to season it at all or cook it in any way that's going to make it harder to digest. You want it to be kind of falling apart. So slow cooker chicken or boiled chicken is a good way to go. And you can just add a little bit of that in for meals, 4 and 5. You can start working more ingredients in as you see fit. You're going to know your dog best and see if he's perking up a little bit and can handle a little bit more as far as ingredients go. And another thing you might want to try is adding a little bit of yogurt. Now, you don't want to cook the yogurt, so this is something that you would just add on top of his bowl as you're feeding it to him nice and cold, because yogurt is actually alive. There are tons of little microorganisms in yogurt that are good for your digestive system and your dog's digestive system. And for example, if your dog's stomach upset is because of an antibiotic that they're on, which is killing all of the good and bad bacteria in their system, then adding some probiotics, some good bacteria back in the form of yogurt is a tasty and healthy way to do that. Pretty much every dog I've ever met loves yogurt. So this is just unflavored, whole milk, plain yogurt. I'm making a huge mess somehow. So that's our dog food for dogs with upset bellies. Start with just coconut milk, chicken broth, and rice. Slowly add in things like boiled chicken, pumpkin, and yogurt, and together those things should get that doggy digestive system back on track. Once they're doing, as long as they're continuing to improve and not get worse as you phase in ingredients, you can start working in maybe a half a cup at a time, depending on how big your dog is, a fourth of a meal at a time of their regular food back in. Now, if you suspect an old expired bag of dog food or can of dog food, definitely check that expiration date. And maybe just throw away that whole bag of food and start with a fresh bag of food that you know that they don't have a bad reaction to and does have a good far away expiration date. If you're feeding home-cooked food with the meat and the veggies and the starch like we've talked about before, then again, just a quarter of a meal at a time, you can start working that in once their bellies seem to have gone back to normal. But it's perfectly okay for them to eat this stuff for a few days while they get back on track. It's not a huge deal for a couple of days for you to not get every single nutrient that they need into their food. It's more important for their digestive system just to not be overloaded with different kinds of things that it needs to break down and things that might be tough for it to break down. So I hope your dog does not have an upset belly, but next time he does, give this a try and let us know how it works. We're going to give some of this to Messy and see if he likes it. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so we're here at Messy's house and we brought our happy tummy food to see if he will feel a little better eating it. And since there are there's two other really cute dogs that live here, they're gonna get to try it as well. And if you have more than one dog at your house and only one has an upset tummy, it is totally okay to feed everybody this until we're back on track. It's not gonna be quite as nutritionally rich as the food we talked about in video 2, but it's nothing in it will harm them and it's pretty delicious. So might as well just let them have a little bit of variety. All right, so we're gonna try to let just Mr. Messy out right now. We'll see if it works. We do 3 bowls of the delicious food. We did add the pumpkin to it too, if you check out the bowls, because Messy has already been eating broth with rice for a couple of days. So today he's getting some pumpkin added to that. All right. There's Messy. Oh, he likes it. Oh, yeah. Good job, buddy. That'll help your belly. No problems there. Oh, is that pretty good? Oh.